Hello and welcome to Class Time. I am Latoya Shiraya.
And I am Karima Mundell Thomas. And we are your math teachers for today's CSEC mathematics session. Let's begin.
Great. So what are we doing today, Karima?
Consumer arithmetic. And for today, we have some nice objectives lined up for you. We're going to be solving problems, as we can see on screen, relating to tax and rates. We're also going to be solving problems involving payments by installment, as in the case of hire purchase.
Okay. All right. Before we get started, Karima, I have a rates joke I have to give you.
Oh, dear.
Right? So, you know how you're in your yard doing whatever and the men passing by with their weed whackers and cutlass and, room and break and all them lovely things, right?
Yes.
So I was watering the lawn and the man stopped and he was like, "Mommy, I'm cut a yard for you." So I said to him, "Not really, but what's your rate?" And the man stood there looking rather puzzled, like, "You want me cut the yard or you don't want me cut the yard?" So I said, "What's your rate? I have to know what's the rate first." And the man was like, "Mommy, you want me cut the yard or you don't want me cut the yard?" Then my neighbor was like, "How much you charge?" And the man told me the price he was charging. And I was like, oh. So you don't usually use or hear the word rate. So he clearly did not understand what I was asking when I said, "What's your rate?"
So, Latoya, it's very important that you brought up that point because we want to ensure that our students understand what rate really is before we actually get into the meat of the matter.
I think that is important.
Let us talk a little bit more about rates.
All right. So in the case of my weed whacker gentleman that was passing by in my community, the rate in that case would refer to a fixed price or charge for something. So whatever he was charging to cut the yard would have been his rate. Whatever your tailor charge when you go to make an alteration to a piece of garment, that's the rate your tailor is charging.
Makes sense. That makes sense. But I'm seeing also, Latoya, that rate may also refer to a comparison between two related quantities. So most times the second quantity tends to be time. For example, we might hear per second, per hour, but we know that it could be anything.
Right.
For example, think about somebody who may be painting. That person would be charging per second or per hour. They probably would charge you per square meter maybe.
Right.
Or some measurement
or
like
the
that.
tilers, they charge per square. They usually do feet or so, but because you're the metric system, you'd say per meter or kilometer, right?
All right, not for tiling though, but yeah.
Squared, yeah.
So let's look at some other examples though. Interest rate. Now, that's one that people are often interested in because if I am going to take out a loan, Latoya, anything that I'm going to do, I want to know, what's the rate, what's the cost per annum for that.
Right,
yes?
right,
and that's
right.
important, isn't it?
Agreed.
Agree.
We also have telephone rates. What's the charge per minute? We're not going to go into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's leave that one there.
And then we have exchange rate, how much Jamaican dollar per US dollar,
There you
or
go.
per Canadian dollar, or pound if you have anybody over in England. We have water and light rate. We don't usually talk about these things, but our local electric and water companies do charge us per liter and per kilowatt. So
that's true, and it's on our bills, If we actually pay attention, we'll actually see the rates. Sometimes it's at the back of the bill,
Right,
but
right.
we just need to pay attention to it.
I think it's more important to just look how much you owe and pay it before the due date.
Right? Funny.
And then we have, unfortunately, the crime rate, which is usually looked at per day, per month, per annum, per year, right? So when we talk about rates, it's either a fixed price or we're looking at a comparison between two related quantities.
True. And you know what, Latoya? Since we're looking at CSEC content, I want us to actually zoom in on the exchange rate, because I would have seen questions pertaining to the exchange rate when I would have looked at the past CSEC papers. So let's see if we can help our students to,
I got you.
Yes,
I got
attempt
you. I got
one
you.
of those questions.
All right, so here's a question. For this question, you're going to use the rates given below, right? And so while on vacation in Canada, John used his credit card to buy a tablet for 300 Canadian dollars, right? And we want to know what is the value for the tablet in Jamaican dollars. Now, if you look above the question, you can see the exchange rates given. So for 1 Canadian dollars, that is equal or equivalent to 119 Jamaican dollars and 50 cents. And for 1 Canadian dollars, it is equal or equivalent dollar.
Yes.
It is equal or equivalent to 90 US cents.
Yes. So I'm looking at this question, Latoya, and it's asking us, so the tablet cost 300 Canadian dollars.
Yes.
And they're asking us for the value of the tablet in Jamaican dollars.
Yes.
Now, when I look at these types of questions, immediately a kind of ratio idea comes to mind. So I'm just going to go to the board a little bit just to talk through how is it that ratio idea comes to my mind, and then see if we can use that to answer the question.
All right, sounds good.
Imagine in a class, for example, you have the ratio of boys to girls maybe. So let me just write quickly. We have boys and we have girls. Now the ratio of boys to girls would be 1 boy to every 2 girls, right? Now, that would automatically mean, Latoya, if I have 2 boys, how many girls do you think I'm expecting?
So it's 1 to 2. So for every 1 boy is 2 girls. So if it's 2 boys, I'm thinking 4 girls.
4 girls. Good.
Right.
Let's extend this a little bit more. What about if it's 3 boys that are in the class? How many girls would we have?
So, all right. So I think, that's 6 girls.
6 girls. Now, what we're seeing here is some level of proportionality or equivalence.
Right.
So what we're seeing here is that how the boys are increasing, right? It's proportionate to how the girls are increasing. So pretty much, if we multiply the number of boys by a particular value, then the number of girls will have to be multiplied by that same value.
Right.
Now,
so in this case, the girls are twice
for the first
boys,
example, yes.
Or 2 times the boys.
All right. Now, did you know that fractions can really bring out this concept as well? Watch this. So I'm just going to use the first 2 that we mentioned. So watch this, Latoya. Look at this beautiful relationship coming out.
So you're representing the boys as 1 to 2. So the fraction bar in that case would represent
this is showing what's happening where boys are concerned.
Right.
And over here, I'm showing what happened where girls are concerned.
So your numerator is 2 and your denominator is 4 for the girls.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. Can you simplify 2 quarters?
You can, and I think it's a half.
Oh, so then it means, therefore, that I really could. What I'm using here is an equality. So we have what we call now equivalent fractions coming out here.
Right.
Isn't this wonderful? So let's look at what we had earlier. So we had 3 boys with mapping to 6 girls.
Right.
So it therefore means if I were to look at the first ratio and the last one, I'm seeing the same thing happening right here. So Latoya, I am seeing where equivalent fractions can actually help us in answering this question. You may be saying boys, girls, what does that have to do with money?
Right.
Switch gear a little for me. What if it's $1? What if it was $1 is equivalent to $2 in another currency?
Right.
So 2 Jamaican dollars, let's assume it's Jamaican, would actually be equivalent to $4 in that currency.
Right.
So you see that it's really the same thing.
Right.
Same idea.
It is.
So the point is that, you know, that proportionality is important when it comes to the exchange rate.
Okay, just on the board, to
Yes.
show.
I'm sorry, I
right.
made an error in writing,
Right.
so I said the 6 in my head.
But you wrote
And
3.
wrote 3 because I'm
Yeah.
thinking 1/3. So let me just fix that.
And then the 2/6
quickly.
would be equivalent
To
to 1/3.
1/3.
Yeah.
That's correct. So
All
let's see
right.
if we can use that to answer this question.
Alrighty. So we're changing. The question asks us how many Jamaican dollars
Yes.
would 300 Canadian dollars be equal or equivalent to?
There you go.
Right? So representing our information algebraically, to help us in our solving, we're saying that 300 Canadian dollars is equal to X Jamaican dollars. And clearly we want to know what X is.
Yes.
Right? And we already know this information was given, that 1 Canadian dollars is equal to 119 Jamaican dollars and 50 cents. And using that same equivalence and ratio idea, we can use that to help us in solving this question.
Right. So unlike what I had on the board, in this case, there's something that we don't know.
Right.
But because of the relationship that we saw earlier,
Yes.
we can actually use it to figure out what we don't know.
Right. So here we have 300 as our numerator,
right.
and 1 as our denominator. The 300 representing that 300 Canadian dollars that we know, and the 1 representing that $1
Canadian
to the 1 Canadian to the Jamaican dollars.
Right.
And here we have our X, because the 300 would match up to the X because we are trying to find out how much Jamaican dollars is 300 Canadian dollars.
There you go.
So we have X as our numerator and 119 and 50 cents as our denominator. So you can see where the 1, in terms of the rate that was originally given, is matching up to the
$119.50.
and the 300 is matching up to the X, which we want to find out now.
There you go. And
right?
once we understand this principle, Latoya, the rest of it is pretty much algebra.
Yes.
Because what's happening is that we are now going to try to make X
Solving
the subject.
for X.
Solving for X. There you go.
Okay. So we would have multiplied both sides
by $119.50.
In trying to get X the subject of the equation, finding out what X is. And through simple calculation, we now know that X is $35,850. And that means that our 300 Canadian dollars is actually equivalent to 35,850 Jamaican dollars.
Cool.
That's a lot of money for a tablet. But
it is, but in this time, tablets are essential.
Yes,
and
they are.
We're willing to spend to get a very good one that will last.
Indeed, agreed.
So let's move on.
All right, so the second part of the question asks, or says that John's credit card limit is 45,000 Jamaican dollars.
Yes.
And they want to know how much Jamaican dollars does he have left, yes, John, for use on his credit card. So how much money leave on the credit card after he would have bought the tablet?
Well, that's pretty simple, Latoya, because he spent 35,850 Jamaican dollars.
Right.
And his limit is 45,000 Jamaican dollars.
Right.
So that's an easy subtraction because we need to take out what he spent
from
to see
the
what
limit.
He has left.
$9,150.
Interesting.
Not a lot.
Not a lot indeed.
Spend wisely, John. All right. Then now, the third part of the question says, from Canada, John decides to travel to the United States of America. Calculate the amount of US dollars he will be able to spend using his credit card. All right. So going back to the rate, I'm actually seeing where we don't have Canadian dollars to US dollars.
No, man, we have Canadian dollar to US. We
Jamaican
don't have Jamaican dollars
to US dollars.
So
right.
what we have is 9,150 Jamaican dollars,
yes.
and we want this in
US dollars. Right.
So based on the rate that we're given, Latoya, it seems to me that we are going to have to convert to Canadian dollars first, and then convert from Canadian dollar to US. So this is pretty much a two-part question, students. Yes?
All right, take us through, Karima.
So part one. So we're converting from Jamaican dollar to Canadian dollar. So we want to know what's 9,150 Jamaican dollars to Canadian dollars. All right, so again, it's useful to write our rates. You know, just as I had written the ratio on the board earlier, that helps us in actually creating our equivalent fractions. Good? So from what I'm seeing on screen, I would now say that x as my numerator divided by 1, yes, is equivalent to $9,150 divided by $119.50.
I just want to point out clearly that you will see that the numerators are speaking to the first row, which is the Canadian dollars that we don't know, to the Jamaican dollars that we know.
Yes.
And then the denominators are speaking to the exchange rate that was given.
Okay. Just to point out, though, Latoya, that we could have used the exchange rate that's given as the numerator.
Yes.
Yes, just so that, you know, students understand
Right.
that it could be that way as well. And that's the beauty about math.
You could have written
no one way.
1 divided by x is equal to $119.50 divided by 9,150.
Correct.
So if you would have inverted
Inverted.
your fractions, both of your fractions, it would have been fine. You would have got the same result.
That's correct. So we know that x divided by 1 is simply x.
Right.
And so we're dividing 9,150 by $119.50. The dollar signs are not there right now, but we are sure that when we get to our answer here, we now know that 9,150 Jamaican dollars is equivalent to $76.57 Canadian. Now we need to go to part 2 because this question did not end there. They asked us to convert to US dollars.
Okay.
So now we have $76.57 Canadian and we want to change that to US.
Right.
So we now have to use that exchange rate that is applicable to this particular conversion. So we know that 1 Canadian dollar is equivalent to 90 cents US. And again, just as what we did earlier, we looked at the ratio, and we're seeing here that this means that $76.57 divided by 1 is equivalent to that unknown, which we have called x in this case, divided by 0.9 or 90 cents.
And just to note, you can call your unknown anything. YK, LMQ, Apple.
Any variable that suits you,
right?
pretty much.
We just usually tend to use X all the time.
So from here, again, we're using up our algebra skills.
Right.
So here we see that to make X the subject here, we need to actually multiply both sides by 90 cents.
Right.
And that pretty much tells us that X has a value of 68.91. So since we're dealing with money, John is going to be able to spend US dollar, this is US now, $68.91 from his credit card. I sure hope John has extra money because that's
a
not
lot of things, man. You can get 68 things in the dollar store.
Okay, point taken.
Probably 69 if they have something less than $1 for 91 cents.
Point taken. But let's see if we can look at something else that speaks to rate, Latoya, because we talked about several examples, exchange rate, telephone rate, and several earlier. So it would be unfair for us to just do exchange. So let us jump to a question that deals with telephone and see if we can help our students here.
All right, and this was a question from the January 2005 CSEC paper, and it reads, Kim has 2 telephones. One is cellular and the other is landline. The rates of local calls are shown in the table below. So, the cellular phone has no monthly rental fee. However, the landline has a $45 rental fee charge. For the cellular phone, it's 85 cents per minute. And for the landline, it's 15 cents per minute. So the first question asks, in 1 month, calls were made lasting for a total of 1 hour and 5 minutes. Show by calculations that the cost for using the landline telephone was less than the cost for using the cellular phone.
So that seems as if we're going to have to do both. We're going to have to work out the cost
Yes.
for both the landline and the cellular phone and then make a comparison.
We will.
All right.
So it says duration of 1 hour, 5 minutes.
Yeah, but then the charge in the table says charge per minute.
Right.
So it means that that 1 hour is posing a little problem, lads. I think we need to convert this duration strictly to minutes. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yes. So we all know 60 minutes
Make
make
an
1 hour.
hour.
So 1 hour and 5 minutes would definitely be 65 minutes.
All right.
Now, the cellular bill, as we noted, did not have a rental fee. So pretty
Right.
much we're just calculating call charges.
Right.
So it's 85 cents per minute and it's 65 minutes. So we can simply multiply that 65 by 85 cents. And so the cellular bill is actually $55.25. I wonder how that compares to the landline.
Which you think is more?
I don't want to guess, honestly. So let's talk about the landline bill now, students. I hope you're calculating along with us, all right? Now, you will note that in the table, the landline had a rental charge. So we have to be careful now because we must include the rental fee and the call charges, all right? So rental fee in this case is $45 and the call charges, we know it's 15 cents per minute. And it's 65 minutes. So we can easily complete that multiplication, which gave us $9.75, and we add the rental fee to that. So now we're seeing that the landline bill is $54.75. Not much difference, but clearly we can see that the cost for using the landline is definitely less than the cost for using the cellular phone.
Even though the landline had a rental fee.
Yeah, but you say that 15 cents compared to 85 cents per
Yes,
minute.
yes.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it there. So let's see if there was a second part to this question.
There is. It says, for the month of March, the landline telephone was used and the bill was $54.60. Calculate the total time in minutes for which the calls lasted.
So if my memory serves me right, we're talking about the landline here, and it had a rental fee, correct?
Yes, it did.
So it means that that $54.60 is not just for call charges, is it? No, because the rental fee is actually included in that.
Right.
So I'm thinking we need to take out that rental fee to actually separate it so we can see what amount is paid for calls only. Agree?
Yes.
All right. So once we have taken out that $45, we have $9.60. So we have $9.60 left for call charges. But the rate per minute is 15 cents.
Yes.
So I'm thinking we need to figure out how many 15 cents we can get out of $9.60.
Right.
So we're at the point now of figuring out how many minutes would we have to talk to pay $9.60.
Right.
So we talked about the rate per minute being 15 cents, and towards the break we said we needed to figure out how many 15 cents we can get out of $9.60. But subtraction is a very long process to
Right.
repeatedly subtract. So a division will work. Yes?
Right.
So let's divide $9.60 by the rate, which is 15 cents. So how long? Let's see. Yes, 64 minutes. So if I'm using my landline and I talk for over an hour, my bill is $54.60. Yes, including the rental charge.
Right. Because
Nice.
you have to pay for the phone you're talking on.
There you go. All
All
right.
right.
Now, taxes, we said in the objectives that we're looking at rates and also taxes. Now, taxes is one of those things that us Jamaicans,
We don't like.
that's not what I was going to say, but
Oh.
we are concerned. We are concerned about taxes, all right? And so we want to just talk a little bit about what taxes are and how they come into play in our daily lives.
All right, so when we talk about taxes, we're talking about these compulsory contribution to state revenue levied by the government on workers' income and business profits or added to the cost of some goods and services and transactions.
True, yes.
For example,
income tax. And I'm seeing a whopping 25%, but I'm glad for the part that came after that said 25% of the taxable income.
Tears.
So not all the income is taxed. Remember, there's a threshold that is taken out
Real
before that 25% is calculated.
So income tax of a person who are working and they're getting an income.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Education tax are also for people who are working.
All right.
Yes.
So that's 2.25%.
And then
this one we all know because we pay it in the supermarkets, etc.
Yes.
The GCT, General Consumption Tax, which is now 15%. And of course, we know we pay land or property tax.
So if you buy a piece of land or a home, which is on a piece of land, you'll have to pay tax.
I wonder where else it would be. But yes, we have to pay tax. Also transfer tax. So there are several others, but these are just four that we're exposing our students to today.
Right.
Now, as we talked about taxes, it makes no sense to have this discussion, in an abstract way. We want to bring it home, looking at a real life situation. How does taxes come into play?
And taxes in our everyday lives.
Yep.
If you are buying goods and services, there goes your tax.
Okay, so let's look at this practice question. Now, the marked price of a freezer in store A is $30,000. But you see here now, a tax of 15% will be charged on each purchase. So if I go to store A, I'm going to have to pay 15% tax on anything I buy in there. In store B, a freezer of the same make and model is sold for $34,000, inclusive of tax. A tax already in this one.
Right. So I was just about to say that even though sometimes you're not seeing plus GCT on the thing or plus tax that you're buying, it doesn't mean that tax is not on it. It just means that the price that you are given already included the tax. So
and some stores do that.
More than likely, we all are paying tax.
All right. Now, John has a particular belief. Here it says that John believes the freezer is cheaper at store A. And I can't see why John think that, because 30,000 is right up there. When he walks into store A, he sees $30,000.
And then when he gets the bill, he sees another money and he says that he was robbed.
Aha. Well, let's see. So, is John correct? That's what we want to find out.
We don't know.
And we're going to have to justify whether or not we think he's correct. So, let's do some calculations. Now, in store A, we already spoke about the marked price being $30,000 and the tax is 15%. So pretty much, Latoya, we now need to calculate what's 15% off $30,000 to figure out what the tax is. So John is going to pay a whopping $4,500 extra if he purchases the freezer in store A.
Yes.
So in store A, the price inclusive of tax is $34,500.
Yes.
What was the price in store B again?
$34,000.
And John thought it was cheaper in store A, not true? Is he correct though?
Not quite.
There's no not quite about it.
No.
He's not correct. The freezer is cheaper at store B. So you see how tax becomes important because you now have to pay attention to what it is you're buying and whether or not the tax is already included in the price that you are seeing on the item.
And I just want to make a note that some taxes are deducted while some taxes are added. So like in the case of the income tax and the education tax, that's deducted from your salary.
And paid to someone else, so someone else gains.
Right.
Okay.
And then in the terms of the GCT, that is added to what?
The price, but then
price.
technically deducted from your pocket anyway. So it still boils down to the same idea. So it's paid to someone somewhere.
And as you can see, it is a percentage off.
All right.
The quantity or the price of the good, in this case, the freezer.
All right. So, You know? As I say that TV, I wish it was a laptop up there because right now I'm having a laptop challenge.
I think we all are, aren't we?
I don't have any money to go purchase a laptop cash.
And we're here for you, sis.
Oh, that's what this is about?
We are here for you.
Talk to me about higher
we
purchase
are here
then,
for you.
I need a solution like now.
You don't have a laptop and you need a laptop and you don't have any money. I'm here for you, girl.
All right.
That's what we call higher purchase.
Tell me about it.
There are quite a few business places in Jamaica that offer this service. So higher purchase is a service. Now, what does higher purchase do? You know, it's an arrangement for buying, as you, the consumer, goods, where the buyer makes an initial down payment or not, depending,
yes.
and pays the balance plus interest in installments. Now, there are some keywords here. Down payment, what is that? That's the money you initially pay on the good or service that you are taking out on higher purchase.
So another word for down payment is the deposit.
Right.
All right.
However, there are some places that say $0 down. You don't have to pay anything.
So you don't have any initial payment,
no you
deposit.
don't have any initial payment,
That's
right?
Maybe the one I might try. But anyway.
And then you have installments.
Yes.
Now, the installments are the sum of money due as one of several equal payments for the item. And you can pay these installments weekly or monthly, and it's spread over an agreed period of time. Meaning you can, the period could be 6 months, it could be 3 years, it could be 3 months, it could even be 2 months. However long you think. So that would be an agreement you and the service provider agree on. So whether you can, so if you think you can pay it in 6 months, they will calculate and tell you what that installment could be. Maybe you need a shorter time, you know, you could pay it in 3, or maybe you need a longer time depending on what's happening with your salary.
That's true.
All right. Higher purchase is, though, a legal agreement. So
Latoya, from what I know about legal agreements, if if the agreement is breached, then there are consequences. So
AKA take it
I can't even say my goods because it don't
not
belong
yours.
to me yet.
And I'm going to that point now. So higher purchase allows you, the customer, to acquire the item while still paying for it, unlike layaway where you will have to finish paying for the item before using it. So in your case, you need a laptop, so you can take it out on higher purchase and you can use it while you pay for it. However, the laptop
is not mine.
in true Jamaican fashion is not yours.
True.
It does not belong to you
until
you would have completely paid for the item. So every single dollar that you agreed on,
yes,
you'd have to pay all of that.
But that brings me back to point number 1 about the legal agreement, because it means therefore that if I forfeit or if I breach this, then since the laptop would not be mine, then it can be taken away from me.
Yes, until you finish pay for it. Yes.
Okay.
And I think we all know, but in the event you don't know, the higher purchase price is usually more than the cash price. Now, the cash price is the price if you have cash, money, physical money, be it physical or debit card. If you have the money in your account and can pay for it, that's one price.
Yes.
That you will usually see on the item when you go in store. But if you don't have the cash,
you can take it on higher purchase.
Take it on higher purchase, but just know that you are paying more because it did say plus interest.
Right, so that additional amount charged is called the interest.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so based on what I'm seeing here, higher purchase, then it has advantages
and
disadvantages.
It does.
Because I'm seeing the advantage where I can go and use the laptop.
Right.
While I'm paying for it.
You can use the laptop to make money to
while
pay for it.
True. But the flip side is I'm going to end up paying more. Well, I guess I'll just have to wait and make a decision.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a question.
Because higher purchase is one of the most frequent types of questions in this category that will come on the CSEC paper.
Well, it has come quite a number of times.
Right. So the students will definitely want to know how to calculate.
Definitely.
Right? So here's a question from the January 2008 paper.
All right. So the cash price of a bicycle is $319. $300.95. But if you don't have that money, it can be bought on hire purchase by making a deposit of $69
Oh, yes.
and 10 monthly installments of $28.50 each. That sounds like another currency from Jamaica. But anyway, now let's see what we're asked to calculate. The total hire purchase price for the bicycle or of the bicycle. Then we need to find the difference between the hire purchase price and the cash price and express our answer for part 2 as a percentage of the cash price. So that's quite a lot, but as usual, we tackle one part at a time. Now, when we talk about the hire purchase price, we're talking about, Latoya, all the money that I would pay for this bicycle. Everything. So it's going to include my deposit.
Yes.
And it's also going to include the total installments. All right? So all those 10 payments that I made of $28.50,
Yes.
I'm going to have to include those in the hire purchase price.
Right.
So let's put that together. So we have our $69 for the deposit, and our total monthly installment will be 10 being multiplied by $28.50. So now we have 69, which is supposed to be added to $285. So the bicycle will cost $354 if I purchase it using the hire purchase plan.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go to part 2. The difference between the hire purchase price and the cash price. Now, we said earlier that the hire purchase price is going to be more than the cash price. That was already established.
It was.
And we saw that coming out because the hire purchase price that we got was $354.
Yes.
Right? And the cash price is actually $319.95. So we can see that clearly. And here the difference simply means that we're subtracting to see what's the extra, the additional amount to pay.
And that extra and that additional, we would have said earlier, that's the interest.
There you
so
go.
not the interest rate,
just the
but
interest
the interest
in dollars.
Yes, right. And that's what we are calculating here, which
All
is
right,
simply.
So let's do our subtraction. So how much extra? All right, good. So we would have paid $34.05 extra. Now there was a part 3 because we want to see what is this $34.05 as a percentage of the cash price. So clearly we need to convert to percentage, right? So then I'm thinking that when I think about percentage, I'm thinking about
What of 100?
the whole being 100. So I know that somewhere in there 100 is going to be, but sometimes I get confused. Can you help me? How is
No
it that
problem.
I'm gonna...
So we're expressing our answer in part 2, and just to recall that answer would have been the interest paid, or the difference between the total hire purchase and the hire purchase price and the cash price. And we want to represent that value as a percentage of the cash price. Okay? So my interest as a percentage of my cash price would be my interest
divided by my cash price, and that's because it's being found as a percentage of the cash price.
And of course, finding that percentage means I will now have to multiply by 100.
Makes sense. That makes sense. So let's put that
Which
in
is
and see what
substituting
we're
our
having.
values. We know that the interest from previously calculated would have been $34.05,
Yes.
and then the cash price, which was originally stated, $319.95. Multiply. Now we have
10.6%. Now this particular question says that a store is promoting a new mobile phone under 2 plans. We have plan A and plan B. Now the plans are advertised as shown in the table below. So of course I'm seeing that both plans have a deposit, different amount of money, but a deposit nonetheless. They both have monthly installments, one more than the other, of course. And the number of months to repay, plan A has 12 months, to pay and plan B has 6 months to pay. But there's an additional part there. Tax is charged on all payments if you should use plan B, but there is 0% tax for plan A. And I just see you rolling your eyes once I mentioned tax, but never mind. Now I want to point out that this plan, if you notice based on what's in the table, it's not a call plan.
No, it's not.
You're actually doing a payment for the instrument, the phone itself.
Taking out the phone on hire purchase.
There you go. We're taking out the phone on hire purchase. The word hire purchase is not used,
Right.
but based on the information that is given, it's actually a hire purchase plan.
It is.
So unlike the one we did earlier, there wasn't a cash price given per se.
Right.
So clearly we can't know how much extra we're going to be paying, etc. But we can find out how much the phone would cost under a particular plan.
Agreed.
So let's look at part 1 here. We're asked to calculate the total cost of a phone under plan A.
Yes.
Now, when we look at plan A, we notice that there is a deposit. Clearly, that must be included.
Yes.
And of course, the total installments. Now, plan A is the one that didn't have any tax.
Yes.
So there's no need to include that aspect.
As clearly stated on the table.
Good. So let's fill in our deposit. So we're substituting $400 for the deposit. We know that based on the table, it's $65, and we're paying that for 12 months.
Yes.
So the total installment we're seeing on screen will be $780, and that, of course, needs to be added to the deposit to get the total cost
Yes.
using plan A. So I would basically pay for that phone using plan A, $1,180.
And again, this is clearly not Jamaican dollars. All right.
Now, part 2 says, determine which of the two plans, A or B, is the better deal. And of course, we must justify our answer.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, Latoya, clearly, for me to do this comparison, I need to calculate plan B, the
Right.
cost using plan B.
We would have
So we already
calculated-
have plan A, yes. So go ahead and tell us how we can calculate the cost on the plan B.
All right. So for plan B, as you can clearly see from the table, and I just want to implore the students that you want to go back to the information that was given for each part of your question.
Very important.
So for plan B, we're seeing where a deposit needs to be paid, followed by some installments, as well as a tax.
And I deliberately asked her to do that part, because you rolled your eyes. Go ahead.
All right. So just substituting our information, as we can see from the table, the deposit is $600. The installment is six $80 payments. So we're multiplying our $80 by 6.
Yes.
And we also need to add 5% tax. But I want to note that it says on all payments. So clearly we would have to determine what's the sum of the deposit and the installment before we can determine
Apply the
how
tax.
much tax is being paid.
Okay.
So the deposit, $600, or installment would have been $480. And now we would find 5% of the sum of that $600 and $480.
Cool.
Right? And we know 5% is the same thing
500s.
as 500s. As you would have said, percentage is out of 100, yes?
Right.
And when we simplify,
So we are seeing here that 5% of 1,080 is actually $54.
Yes.
So that's the tax portion.
and when we sum everything together as we should, we would get $1,134, which means that even though there's a tax
Exactly.
on Plan B actually works out to be the better deal of the two deals.
And you see, that's so important, Latoya, because sometimes when we look at information at face value,
Yes.
it gives a particular appearance.
It does.
But then when you actually complete the calculations,
Yes.
you're surprised by the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah, you're surprised by the outcome. And so I want our students to recognize this, and especially as they're asked to justify their answer, then it means pretty much they need to back it up with some
And
calculations.
just in real life, you will go to establishments and they present these nice deals to you. And it's always nice when you can, go to more than one place and compare and know that you are getting value or the best value for your money.
That's
so
true.
This is a real life.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So we're here to summarize. We have looked at quite a bit.
We have.
Quite a bit. So just in case anyone, missed a particular segment, we definitely need to summarize and highlight some key points coming out of this lesson.
No problem. Firstly,
all right, so we did say that rate refers to a fixed price paid or charged for something, and you gave a wonderful example about the
money charged
for cutting the yard.
Right,
there
from
you
the
go.
gardener.
Or maybe it's painting.
Or it's painting.
How much is charged per square meter?
Yes.
Or that kind of thing. But we also said, Latoya, that rate may also refer to a comparison of two related quantities. And we said that most times, most but not all, most times, the second quantity is time. So we may hear something like, we're traveling a certain distance per second, maybe, that's a rate, or something being done per hour. But as we said, it could be anything. For example, we have here interest rate. We talked about exchange rate.
Very important. And I mean, again, this is real life. The exchange rate is very common to us as Jamaicans.
It is.
And sometimes when we go to our cambios, which we tend to do business for exchange rate, different cambios give you different prices. And you want to ensure when you are buying or selling your foreign currencies, you are getting the most.
So it pays to shop around and check. Do
and
your calculations.
Know how to do these calculations.
That's it.
Right?
Now, we also talked about tax. And we said that tax refers to a percentage charged on the cost or value of something. And the famous example, the one that's pretty much common to all of us, is the general consumption tax, which is 15%. And we saw this earlier with the freezer.
Yes. So sometimes you might go to an establishment and one establishment says plus GCT, while another establishment might tell you tax is already included.
There you go.
You might want to be able to distinguish, which of the two entities would have given you. It's all about better deal.
There you go.
Value.
And it makes sense to ask, because sometimes when you go to the establishment, you want to check, does this price already include GCT?
Right.
So you know if you need to calculate and add it on, so you're not surprised when you get to the cashier and you don't have enough money moving right along.
Okay.
So we talked about hire purchase being an agreement where you pretty much make a down payment or a deposit and you pay the balance in installments. All right, and that's pretty much how we calculate the hire purchase price. And the interest, of course, we said, is that extra, the difference between the hire purchase price and the cash price.
And not the interest rate in this case, but the money.
Interest in money.
Right?
That's right.